Hello everybody and welcome back to another new vlog. First of all, apologies. I've been a little bit lazy in recent times and I haven't really been recording very much, so apologies for that. I'll explain a little bit more about that in just a while, but in the meantime please remember to subscribe to the channel, and I'll try and get a bit more motivation in the future to make a few more videos. So I've come out to Sutton Park once again, which is my local park, and for any of you who know Sutton Park yourself, I've entered the park at the Boldmere Gate. I'm about half a mile in now, heading northwards towards the Streetley Gate of Sutton Park, and hopefully I'll walk as far as there and then cut across towards the Four Oaks Gate. That's depending on how my legs hold up, my knees hold up. But hopefully I'll be able to do all that walk, and during that time I'm going to stop and take a few photos and talk to you all about motivation. But to be quite honest with you, it's the first time for a long time that I've actually come out with a plan of what I want to do and where I want to go, and an idea of the kind of images that I'm looking for as well. So this could be quite an interesting one today. Guys, take a look at this behind me. This is a bit of a nice surprise. I wasn't expecting to see this at all today. It appears to be some sort of cattle pen that's been set up. I know that often there are cattle roaming around this farm, this park, in this particular area, where they will graze for several months of the year, and then they tend to be taken in the autumn to be left on the farm rather than here in the park. But what I've got here is quite interesting because I've never seen this here before. So I think I'm going to stop and take a photo of this. I think the idea of it is it's a pen that's set up so that the cows can be shuffled through the pen here to the front of it, where they can be shackled. No harm to the cows at all, but it means that they can be checked for disease or pregnancy or any kind of illness or anything like that. And then once the farmer knows for sure which cattle are perfectly safe to carry on grazing, he just lets them go again. But I've never ever seen anything like that here in the park at all, so that is my first composition. I've no idea why I like it, but I'm going to take it anyway. Oh, what is that? I really wasn't expecting that at all, but I'm kind of glad I came out today, because I wouldn't have got that photo had I not come out at all today, because I don't think that's there all the time. I've certainly never seen it there before myself, and I think at some point that would have been taken down and taken away from the park as well. So if I hadn't come out today, the next opportunity to come out might have meant that I missed that opportunity to capture that. Anyway, I'm heading back to the path now to make my way to my next composition, and in this case I've probably got a better idea of what I want to photograph. So this is my next shot, and you'll see with this one there's this little bit of a path that runs off the side of the main path that I'm on and runs up towards this tree at the back of the image here. And I quite like the way this path runs diagonally from the right hand bottom corner of the image up towards the tree, closer to the middle and the left hand third of the image. But also then on that left hand third you've got all this beautiful purple heather, which is still just about holding on for the last few days, I think. I'm very lucky to have caught it, but I like the interplay between the colour of that purple heather and the dark green and silvers of that silver birch tree in the background. So I really hope you like that image. I mentioned earlier that I'll talk to you all about motivation. Well, motivation is a very interesting one for me, because there are a lot of factors that go into me producing photos and videos, and one of those factors tends to be the weather conditions. I've noticed more and more recently in the last few years that our summers are getting much warmer, much stickier, much more humid, and I'm finding that it saps the energy way too much, and I don't really want to be fighting against that. I suppose that teaches me a little bit that maybe I've got to try and choose my battles a little bit better, choose the times when I should be going out, when it's going to be a little bit cooler, say first thing in the morning, possibly even last thing in the evening. But maybe that's something that I'll just have to learn for the future. But as well as that, another weather condition is the bright blue skies that we often get during the summer. And that is a tough one for all landscape and woodland photographers, to be quite honest with you, because that harsh sunlight makes it very difficult to find exactly the right exposure, even when you can find the right composition. And fighting against that is always quite difficult as well. That's an easier one to try and overcome though, and it's something that I've found more and more recently that I am starting to overcome slightly better anyway. But all of that just leads to me having to try and make decisions as and when I go out shooting, and sometimes that means that it looks as though I'm being a little bit lazy if I'm not out taking photographs and recording vlogs, because obviously the motivation isn't there. Obviously now we have just recently ticked over into September, and that tends to be the month where we transition from summer into autumn. The last 7 or 8 days or so it's been really warm, surprisingly warm for this time of year. In fact, temperatures up in the high 20s and low 30s in some parts of the country, which is unusual. Not that rare, but unusual in this part of the world. And because of that, I found it very difficult to get out and take photos for the last couple of weeks. However, I've also found one of the things that really does motivate me is the changing of the seasons. As we tick over from summer into autumn, the lighting changes, the sun starts to stay lower on the horizon later in the year, and you get different patterns of light, and you also start to see that the leaves fall off the trees. They change colour first and they give us all these beautiful orange and browns and golds that we see later on in the autumn, and then you start to see more and more light coming through the tree canopy when the trees lose their leaves. So that's always very interesting for me, and that's something that always motivates me. So that's why I'm kind of looking forward to the next few weeks and months. I found that this week I've got a little bit more time to myself, and I can give myself a little bit more of a head start on what I want to do this autumn. So hopefully you'll start to see a few more videos from me in the next few weeks anyway, and then as we go into autumn proper you'll see more and more videos, and then also over the winter you'll see more and more, hopefully. But that's for the future. I'm just glad that I've managed to get a little bit of free time this week to try and push myself and get out there a little bit more and do a bit more photography. So I've been walking for a little while now and not found anything at all that I wanted to photograph. It hasn't surprised me really. I have now passed the Streetley gate of Sutton Park, and I'm heading now back towards the Four Oaks gate that I mentioned earlier, so I'm kind of on the second half of the walk that I wanted to do today. But this area that I'm in now is really the area where I've tended to capture some of my favourite shots in the past. Not necessarily the best ones, obviously that's open to debate really, and everybody's got their own idea about what makes a really good shot, but I've captured some images in this area that I've really enjoyed both capturing and looking at once I've taken the image as well. So this is an area where I hope to get quite a few more compositions along the way. So I've walked just about 100 yards away from the main path that I was on onto a slightly more densely populated path. The main reason is because the path over in that direction is quite near to a busy main road, and I don't know if you can just hear the slight hum of it in the background. I'm only about 100 yards away from it, but I also know that this particular area has got much more opportunity for potential compositions, having walked through all of this area in the past. several times. So I'm looking here for particularly the colours of the green leaves still on the trees and the yellowing and oranging colours of the leaves that have already fallen onto the ground, but also the light that's spilling through the trees and creating these beautiful patterns, beautiful contrasting colours. So I think I've found a composition here, but this is also an area where the wild Exmoor ponies roam, and there's evidence that they've been roaming, lying all over the floor around here, so I've got to be very careful where I put my bag down, and I'll leave you to work out for yourself what I mean by that. But I think I've found a composition here anyway. That one was a really interesting lesson for me in ensuring the correct composition before I take the shot. I had set up the tripod quite low down because that gave me a better angle to capture the scene with the path running through the middle of it perfectly. But also it gave me a better angle for the way the light was falling on the path and so on. So going low down on the tripod was quite a good thing to do. So I'd set the shot up, got the focus just right on one of the trees about a third of the way into the image. F11, 1/15 of a second, ISO 100, took the shot. And just as I was pressing the shutter button, I realised there was another tree right in the very far extreme right hand edge of the image, which was just cutting into the image very slightly. And I decided that that either needed to be fully in the image where it could have some space to breathe at the edge of the image itself, or it would need to be cropped out afterwards. So I decided that cropping that out afterwards might be too destructive for the rest of the scene. So instead I recomposed, and it was only a case of moving my camera and my tripod about an inch to the right to capture a better shot of that, create a better composition with that tree, and just essentially refocusing on the initial tree and reshooting the shot. I don't know which of those images I'm going to prefer afterwards, so whichever one I've shown you, I hope you like that image as well. But it was a really interesting lesson to learn about composition, and that's something that I think we've all got to learn as we're taking our shots, and learn to understand why the shot works and how it works and what makes it work. So guys, I was walking along the path over in this direction and suddenly saw this path cut across me. And every time I see a junction in a path somewhere in the park, in the woodland, I always try and have a quick look up the path just to see if there's anything worth heading up that path to have a look at. And I'm glad I did that, because like I say, I was on a path that cuts across here, and I was going to carry on further along the edge of this woodland and not bother looking this way. And then all of a sudden, when I did look this way, I noticed there's a couple of trees just here, just at the top of the path here. As the path kind of turns off and squiggles around them, there's these couple of trees here that I really quite like the look of. And just as I was looking at them, the sunlight was dappling through the other trees and just bouncing off the trunks of those trees and creating a really beautiful image. So I've decided to walk up to this spot and see if I can capture an image of that just as the light falls on those trees. But just as I'm talking now, it seems like the sun has gone behind a cloud, so I may have to wait a few minutes to get this image, but I'm going to set up anyway and take this one. It will probably be a portrait orientation because the trees are taller than the composition is wide, and the path of course runs through from the very bottom of the scene all the way up past the trees and further on beyond those. So that's the kind of composition I want. I hope you like this image. That one didn't really work as I'd expected. The composition works, I love the composition, it's perfect, but the light just wasn't coming back at all and wasn't falling on those trees. I took the image anyway because, like I say, I like the composition. So it's one, now that I know where it is, I can always come back other times of the year and times when the light's different and take that shot again and again, because it's one that I really like and I hadn't seen it before. So that's something that I remember for future shots. Interestingly though, I've discovered that I've walked down this path before where I took that last composition, but I've walked down it from the opposite direction. So I've walked from the northwestern end of that path towards the southeastern end of the path, and I've never turned around and noticed that composition before, but because I was coming at that composition from a different direction, from the opposite direction, I was able to see that for the first time. So that's quite an interesting one. But like I say, that's one I can keep coming back to and making further compositions of that same image in the future. Tony Pony's here on his own, look, just here. I don't know what he's doing all on his own. He's usually here with 20 odd of his mates, to be honest. There's no others around, but obviously he's all on his lonesome. I'll leave him alone for now though, let him get on with it, because whatever he's got to do, it's more important than what I've got to do, so I'm going to leave him alone. That's it for today's vlog then, folks. Nothing more to see around here. I'm almost at the car park at the Four Oaks gate of the park now, so I'll be heading out and on my way home in a little while. Hope you've enjoyed the vlog. If you have, please remember to give it a thumbs up, and also please remember to subscribe to the channel, and I look forward to seeing you again on another vlog very soon. Bye for now.